Go ahead and tell us a little bit about it.
Okay.
All right, we are live. Thank you for you guys for tuning in to Impromptu. I am Tony Sawyer. This is my husband Clifton Sawyer, and our co-host Pastor Norman Armstrong. We're in North Carolina. He's in South Carolina. What's the weather like in South Carolina today? Is it okay down
It
there?
is beautiful. It's sunny. It's a little nifty. Um, but we had some serious rain last night. It poured
Oh,
down.
really?
Yes.
Oh,
But it's
okay.
sunny today. Yes.
It's been sunny up here. Well, partly cloudy a little bit yesterday, but the weather's nice. We walked this morning and it was really nice. I'm enjoying it, but it's supposed to be icy. I think this weekend.
Ooh.
Some freezing rain and I wish it was a little snow, but it's going to be ice. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, that freezing rain is not fun because it gets on the wires and makes things power go out and stuff. Yeah. So, what did you preach on Sunday?
Well, on Sunday, this past Sunday, I shared from a topic, restart and reboot, which is
Yeah.
part of a series that I beginning because of the nature of us crossing over into a new year, and so it's been a tradition and a culture of our church, like so many others. We will always have a theme for the new year,
Mm-hmm.
that we're hearing, and I declared to our congregation that 2024 would be the year of new beginnings,
Okay.
and that came about because as y'all remember, during the time that we were in the pandemic, from 2020 up to I would say around mid 2022, somewhere maybe the beginning of 2023, where you heard so many people talk about reset,
Yeah. Yeah.
because again, we was just faced with a drastic change. There was a new norm that was introduced to us, and so I began to think about and meditate on that. Everybody kept talking about reset. You have a book came out entitled Reset during the time of the pandemic, and so many people were talking about that. But I began to think about what happens after a reset. That was the question that I heard in my inner self. What occurs after a reset? And so, of course, after there's a reset, then there must be a restart. And
True.
so,
True.
again, I use as a foundational foundation Isaiah 43 verses 18 through 19 when it said, "Remember not the former things, nor the things of old, for behold, God is going to do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth, shall ye not know it? And he shall make once again rivers in the wilderness and rivers in the desert." And so
Mm-hmm.
I began to share with that. And also I came from Philippians chapter 3, verses 13 and 14, where Paul says, though he have not obtained or apprehended, he said this thing that he do, he forgetting those things which are behind, and he's pressing forward to the mark of high calling, which is in Christ Jesus. And so I wanted people to understand that yes, we may have went through, as been using as a theme the whole time during the pandemic, living in an atmosphere of change.
Yeah.
Again, we know that one thing that's going to be constant is change. Change is inevitable. And so, as so many people are trying to figure out and how to have some sense of normality in their lives, I begin to share with my congregation that many of us are guilty of, after a reset, we rewind. And so we keep rewinding, we keep going back to the same old thing over and over and over again. And of course, if we keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, that is the definition of insanity
Insanity.
and
Yes.
so
Yes.
forth. And
Yes.
so I began to explain what a restart is and what a reboot is. And so I was telling a lot of people that one of the things that you have to do as you are coming to a place of restarting some things in your life, it doesn't mean that you have canceled your
Mhm.
purpose, your assignment, you have not canceled your social contract, but sometime after going through all of the things that we went through, because this created mental trauma for a lot of people, sometimes
Mhm.
you have to come to a complete stop. You
Yeah.
have to stop, and you have not yield, not be cautious. Because if you're yielding and you're being cautious, you're still yet moving. Sometimes you have to come to a complete stop and become still. And
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
time of stillness, that's when you begin to reevaluate some things. And so I talked about reevaluating. I use as an example that, for those of us who have ever been in the workforce, we would have what we call a 90-day evaluation after you had landed a new job.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so after that evaluation, based off of whatever things were that came to surface or was revealed or any advice was given, then whoever was evaluating you, doing the evaluation, they would tell you, well, in 30 or 60 days or 90 days, we will
Mm-hmm.
have a reevaluation.
Yes.
And so I
Yeah.
believe that a lot of people now are at that point where they need to understand that after you reset, this is a chance for a new beginning, a restart, to do some things over again. And so, of course, a lot of pastors and leaders are at this fork in the road, this junction in
Yeah.
life right now
Definitely.
concerning their
Definitely.
ministries. What
Mm-hmm.
do I do? And so I share with them that we have been put in a position where we don't have to cancel out our assignment. We don't have to throw in a towel. Now we need to reevaluate, come up with some creative ideas to continue and proceed fulfilling once again whatever our ordained assignment is. And so after you reevaluate, then you reboot. And so when we talk about rebooting, that's when again you're making certain changes in something in order to establish a new beginning. And once
Yeah.
you establish a
Yeah.
new beginning, then you restart all over again.
Yeah. When you said the reset, I thought about the fact that there is, for most of us, there's a set point, and when we our lives are pretty much set in the sense you heard of people saying they're set in their ways, whatever.
Mhm.
So that set point is, this is what worked for me, this is what has always worked, and this is what I'm going to stick with because it's always worked. And so that set point is our norm. And so when there's a reset, it means our norms change.
Mhm.
And those what used to be normal is no longer normal.
Exactly.
And so it's almost like we can't really assess what is normal because we don't know at this point. Things are uh, so they're so fluctuating, so fluid, and so
Mhm.
it's almost like the fluidity and the fluctuating is the new norm.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Eh,
the constant readjusting is the new norm. And we were talking about the going to the airport and flying and all that. It's been years since we flew. And now, everything's on this kiosk and you got to do this and got to do that. And they have people now that can help you do that. They're not going to do it for you, but they're going to show you how to do it. And so
mhm.
everybody's having to readjust. And for those of us who have been stuck in our set point, that has
Mhm.
been a real, real challenge. And so I think when the reset comes, and it's already happened, it started, I think, during the pandemic. That
Mhm.
reset started then. It has not been nothing's been static since then.
Mhm.
Nothing has been static. Everything has been very fluid. And I look at, even now we talk about churches because we're the three of us are pastors, and I say enlightened pastors. And we are looking at now the culture of the church, how it's changing. And even now, what you said, the year of 2024, a lot of people are saying that it is a new beginning, but it's also being said by a lot of the prophets that it is the year of exposure.
And I've said
And
that.
so
I've said.
a lot of things are coming out in the open.
Mhm.
Specifically, I'm talking about in the Christian world, in the evangelical Christian world, that is really making things very fluid because now we don't know how church is going to be done.
Mhm.
It's changing. It's changing. How church is done is changing. Uh, Not only because of the things that are being exposed, but because now we're back in the winter months and here come these other viruses and COVID's still out there. So even though we can have our in-person services, we're still at risk of having viruses infiltrate our sessions. And so we don't know how long it'll be before we'll have to no longer have sessions in
Exactly.
person. So it's always it's almost like you have to stay on guard to, or I should say, stay ready to change.
Mm-hmm.
Stay ready to change. Not so much being afraid of it, but just staying ready to change, to make the adjustment, to make the modifications,
Mm-hmm.
being willing, more willing to do that in order to work with this new norm that we're in.
Mm-hmm. To be open to it. And it's
Mhm,
funny that you said that because that was some of the things I shared last night, when you talked about dealing with that set point where
mhm,
we
mhm.
been settled in certain things. And so now change has occurred and a lot of people do not know how to navigate in the midst of it. And so I shared with them, and I think we talked about it before, that I'm so used to, again, being in, of course, y'all been in it longer than me, but being in it for 40 years. Um, and as a leader, I've never been at this place. And when I say being a leader, I'm not just talking about in the church.
Right.
Um, I've been a leader in different organizations, even in the military and so
Mhm.
forth. And so I've always been very at a place where I can calculate things. I was always aware of my next step. I knew what I needed to do, how to do it. I came up with the strategies and the plans, and I would implement and execute. I am now at a place, and I'm not ashamed to say, and I've said it in conversations with my wife and conversations with my mom. I've never been in a place where I have no idea what is my next move.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
literally do not know what my next move is, and so to
Until it's time to make it.
exactly. And so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
use for an example a statement that we have heard used quite often in quote unquote religious circles is the statement of blind faith.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we kind of define what blind faith is, it simply means I have no idea. I can't even see what my next step is, but
Mhm.
I am going to take a step,
Yeah.
trusting
Yeah. Yeah.
that the Lord is not going to allow me to fall or to fail and so
Mhm.
forth. So that's pretty much what blind faith is.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like with Abraham, and God told Abraham to go, but he
Mhm.
didn't tell him where to go.
Exactly.
And so Abraham had to just go. In fact, it unfolded as he went. And so I think this new norm that we're in requires us to not only be willing to make adjustments quickly, but also to be able to problem solve. Um, and sometimes you can't solve the problem, but you can always uh, find the path of least resistance. And I think that is where a lot of people, particularly those of us who have learned spiritual warfare in Christianity, we've been used to changing everything with our prayers, trying to change and wrestle the answer out of God's hands, and then now it seems that there's this, I don't know what you call it, but there's like, sometimes it feels like there's no intervention,
Hmm.
no intervention. And I'm not saying it's because God's withholding anything, but that it feels like it's withheld. And so now the problem solving has been left pretty much up to us.
Exactly.
So it's like, I think God is trying to pull out of us our own creativity, our own innovative creativity. I think that's what Spirit is trying to pull up out of us, instead of us looking for God as an other or as a remote God to try to come in and rescue and intervene. I think it's pulling us to come to our full potential as God's in the earth.
Exactly.
And that's not an easy journey. That's really not an easy journey, because we're still discovering what our limits are and what our no limits are,
Hmm.
and how to navigate and use them, access that power or creativity that we have.
Hmm.
It's a different world. It's a real different world.
We try to juggle two identities, and what I mean by that is, of course, we have the identity which was introduced to us through the natural realm, again,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
our
mm-hmm.
humanity, and then we have the supernatural identity, which is who we really are, our
Yes,
authentic
yes, yes.
self. And so, for those that are, I would say, enlightened, um, that has been one of the things that many of them, like for example, I'm having all of these doors open up for me to come and minister,
And
but
so is dad. So is dad, which has been nothing. He hasn't had that in several years, 4 or 5 years at least.
but this is going to be the challenge for those, because those the doors that's being opened is places that I have been before. Um, they are familiar with my former ministry. I'll put it that way.
Okay,
Challenge
okay.
is going to be: are you actually ready for this person that is not the same person that y'all think y'all bringing in again?
Yeah,
See what
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying? That's
yeah,
that's what the
yeah.
challenge is. Are you ready for uh the evolved individual? Are you ready for the
Mhm,
person that has matured, has been enlightened? Because if you're not,
mhm.
then there's going to be a kickback. You see
Yeah,
what I'm
and
saying?
yeah, I do understand. I completely understand. And I know Dad was speaking with a young man this morning who's a pastor, a new pastor actually, taking over a church for a pastor that's passed that crossed over just last year or year ago. And
Mhm.
he's in there and he's very young and very idealistic, and he wants what dad has, and he's really wanting the mysteries, he wants mentoring, all of this. But dad asked him this morning, if I come to your church, what are my limits, and what is it you want of me? Because like you said, he's not that same man that they heard about 30 years ago. It's not
Exactly.
that man. He's another whole different kind of man. And so
Mhm.
what, and I kind of caution dad, not that he doesn't know this, but I caution him because I'm more cautious in it,
Mhm.
that when they say, well, you have the freedom, uh, that is not necessarily true, because
Exactly.
they're not sure what you're going to bring.
Hmm.
Are they going to be open to it, because they don't know what you're going to bring? And so
Exactly.
that's the issue at this point. But I was also thinking about, and I use our dog as an example all the time, baby girl. She's now a senior dog and always gotten some kind of health challenge now. This seems that there's always something. She's either got diarrhea, or she's coughing and gagging, or last night she was shivering and we didn't know why. And so there's different things happening to her that we don't understand. So what it's causing me and dad to do is to have to always stay alert, not so
Mhm.
much uh not so much worried about her, but now we're having to adjust to the new norm for a senior dog.
Mhm.
And so what's been the challenge has been wanting her to be like she was.
Mhm.
She's okay for the moment, but wanting her to be the dog that she was 10 years ago, and having to deal with her as she is now, she still has a very good quality of life, but she is not the same dog that she was 10 years ago. So this
Exactly.
is what we're talking about, is when things begin to really change, and it's
Mhm.
not the norm anymore, it's not the set point. Then how do you adjust to the differences, the challenges that come up? Can you adjust to those challenges? You got something you want to share, Dad? Okay, I thought you did, but yeah. So now, and then in this world too that we're living in now, particularly in the West, well, maybe anywhere, it's like we've got to find what our own value is.
Mhm.
Whatever that value is, what service do we provide? Because now there's a need for whatever is the potential that we have inside of us, and we've
Exactly.
got to discover that.
Exactly.
We've got
And I'm glad you said that word, because that's actually what a lot of people don't understand. In again, the reset, there's the rediscovery, because again, you're changing from the time you were born. you are going through a series of change, a cycle in your life. And
Yes.
so, again, that's why we say change is inevitable. You cannot stop it.
Mhm.
All right. And so it's so odd and funny because if we able to discern seasons, and Jesus said that you're able to say when it's going to rain and it rains, you know it's going to be hot and it's hot. How is it that you are unable to discern this time? And
Yeah.
so a lot of us and
Yeah.
I have not been able to discern the seasons
Yeah.
of life that we're actually in. And so it baffles me because in the natural, when we deal with seasons, spring, winter, spring, summer, fall, we adjust and we adapt without even thinking.
True. True.
When we
True.
enter into the
True.
winter time, immediately we don't sit there and stop and say, well, what I need to do now that it's getting cold in winter, do I need, no, we immediately go in our closet, get our coat out, put it on, and go on
Mhm.
about our business without even any second thought.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
we look at the seasons of who we are and the journey that we're actually taking, there are seasons that, like you said, and the key word, because that's the word I've been using a lot, adjusting and adapting. All right. Now you have to sit down, you have to discern, you have to realize what
We've been
season you
talking about
are
the
in
sun.
your life, what
Mm-hmm.
season you are in your life, and make that adjustment. But see, the
Yeah.
key is, again, human nature. One of the greatest fears that we deal with is the fear of the unknown. And so when we, like I said, I'm at a place in my life right now where I'm not as calculated as I used to be. I don't know what my next step is going to be, but
Mm-hmm.
I do know this. I am going to take a step. I'm not fearful of taking a step. I even told the church on Sunday, I said, in this season, y'all leading me, do something or introduce something that you have never seen in church circles. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I said, because again, we have to understand we are evolving, we are progressing, and so we can't continue to rewind. And I said that's what some of y'all have been continually doing. You keep rewinding, but yet you want something new. Well, in
Yeah.
order to embrace something new, you have to understand new means totally different. It's not
Mm-hmm.
going to
Mm-hmm.
be like it was. And so you have to be willing to step out and try new things. And so when you was talking about we've been looking for intervention, I I truly believe that God Himself is pushing us out of our comfort zone,
Sure.
letting
Sure.
us know that look, not only am I trying to bring you to a point of trusting me, I need you to come to the place where you trust you.
Yes, yes, and that doesn't negate the fact that we still want to submit and be surrendered to God,
Exactly.
because we know that whatever strength, whatever wisdom, what all of that we need in order to progress forward is coming from that essence which is God inside of us. I like what Keely said. She said it kind of feels like a step back. And then she says, by that, traditional churches are not for her anymore. She doesn't feel it doesn't resonate with her anymore. But you mentioned the being sure-footed. You felt like you were more calculated and sure-footed in the past. But I was reminded of the mountain goats, the little goats that climb the. You ever seen them climbing the walls on the dams trying to get?
I saw the show not too long ago on TV.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean
Uh-huh.
they will climb a straight up wall to get to the salt. So it's almost like for the prize ahead. So it's like I'm sure they're not standing at the bottom thinking I'm going to put my foot here and then I'm going to put my foot there.
They're sure-footed.
They're sure-footed. In other words, the mind of where they're going is in their feet.
Mm-hmm.
It's in their moving. It's in their taking a step. And so it's not in a premeditative manner. And so this whole thing of premeditating, like we've done in the past, this is how I'm gonna do it. That doesn't work anymore.
Nope.
Because you may try it and then everything just shifts completely.
Exactly.
So the sure-footed has nothing to do with me thinking and knowing where I'm gonna put my foot.
Mm-hmm.
And so that mountain goat actually climbs that wall without thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Thinking
seen
about it.
Without thinking, yes.
I've seen bobcats try to catch a mountain goat on a high plane and they chase him, and the mountain goat can jump. But when the cat jump and grab the mountain goat and it's in the air, he killed himself.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
So the mind gives off the idea that it is able to do all that kind of stuff and get by with it.
Mhm.
Eventually, the mind. Now, I don't know. Everybody is contacted, whatever you want to say, for each evolution.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the reason why everybody don't reach the same quality of surrender consciously is the mind has never been taught that it is you're not going to do that in every lifetime, but you have to go to beingness in every lifetime, so that if the finite self mind don't reach that, you are already there. You're there before your mind is there. The mind may be the mind, and the person is the thing that says time, not yet. I'm not
I need to
ready.
know ahead of
I
time.
haven't read enough. I haven't been here
Premeditation.
long enough. I need some more time.
Well, you had mentioned also, Pastor Norman. That's good, Dad. You mentioned, Pastor Norman, about the seasons, and you said we would pull out our coats or sweaters or whatever based on the season. But have you noticed? And I know you have. There are times you pull your coat out, and now because the seasons are no longer distinct, your coat won't even be necessary.
Exactly. Especially here in South Carolina.
Yeah. So now we can't even premeditate that. We can't determine from the past what's going to be needed right now, because things have changed and shifted so much. The climate change, whatever. The distinctions of the seasons is blurred now. Because here in the Carolinas, and more so even in your area, it's warmer than usual.
But you could leave out in the morning with a coat and it's 30 something degrees, and by noon you burning up.
You taking the coat off.
It's burning up, not just it's just an immediate shift, and that's happened to me several times here recently. I leave out, it is cold as could be, and before noon, I'm like, man, I need to go back home. I'm about to burn up in this house.
So we can't live our lives anymore based on past experience. It's what we're saying. It has to be an intuitive wisdom and discernment that comes up in you at the time that it's needed. Otherwise, you will not be able to get through this uncertain time.
And I think one of the things that's happening, our instincts are becoming more involved.
Yes.
We have not been living by way of instincts. We again, and there's nothing wrong with it, but again, with myself and so many others, we've been so used to living with a plan.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? Plan. And so oftentimes when you're a person that is so organized and everything is done with a plan, when that plan does not work, now you feel like you have failed.
In real estate, those who build houses, they know that when they give a client an estimate for a project, they give them the estimate based on what it's going to cost them for the materials versus labor, plus labor. They also have a contingency plan. That contingency plan is in place. It's money set aside, allotted, or allocated just for something unexpected that may come up while they're doing it. So it's like even when we plan now, there has to be a contingency plan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. You don't just have an A and a B. You have to have an A, B, C,
There you go.
D, E, F. I thought about my mom just now. Of course, you all know that she was in a car accident back in September 26th, and her car was totaled. And so again, like so many others, my mom, she'll be 74 on this coming Sunday. And so when you deal with set ways, the car that she had that car for 21 years.
She named it, I bet. Did she name it?
I think she did. I don't remember what the name was, but she had it for 21 years. She was not planning to buy another car at all. And I remember we would have that conversation over and over again. And so what was weird was my wife and I, when we came back from ministering in Vicksburg, Mississippi, it was maybe 5 days later, whatever. But I went to my mom's house before the accident had happened when I came back from Mississippi. And for some reason, we got on the topic of her car. And she was talking about getting a new paint job. And she said, because I told you, I am not getting a new car. I don't want a car payment. I'm going to drive this car till the wheels fall, until it can't drive no more. Now, mind you, for 21 years, she had this car and she only had 150,000 miles on the car.
Wow.
That is unheard of.
It is.
So, of course, that car is 21 years old. And so I said, okay, Bob, I hear you like that. And so, like I said, about 5 days later, she was in an unexpected accident. All right. So now we go to I take her to get a look at some cars, and she actually ended up buying a car. We drove off that day with her with a brand new vehicle. And it was funny because she had mentioned she wanted a Nissan, and that's what I have. And anybody know with Nissans, they're real popular with racing cars and stuff like that. So the funny thing about it, I was telling my mom, I said, Mom, the car you in now is unlike the car from 21 years ago.
Yes.
All right. Said, there's a whole lot of computer stuff. There's a whole lot of different things. And so when she got in the car to drive, she took off, because back then you really had to put some pressure on the gas pedal. Because today you could barely touch it. So she's like, oh my Lord, this car. I said, "Bye, you're going to have to get adjusted." So again, here is an unexpected change of something that she was so accustomed of 21 years ago, and now she has to get in the new. So it's like her restarting her life. And she made a statement, it's like, I'm learning how to drive all over again. Exactly.
Yeah. We grew up in the days of rolling your windows up like this in the car.
Exactly. I remember that.
And so excuse me. So those times are no longer. And now the bells and the whistles, we don't want all those bells and whistles. Our generation doesn't want all those bells and whistles, because we also grew up in the days when there was the big dial on your TV. You didn't have a remote. So, and there was the dial on the phones. And so we were used to things being very simple.
And you use a hanger for an antenna.
Things were very simple.
I remember that.
You didn't have to figure it out. I saw a video the other day, which is so funny. Some daughter gave her grandmother, a new phone, and her grandmother took the phone and she kept saying, "It won't light up. What's wrong with this?" She said, "I can't get it to come on." She said, "Why won't it come on?" And come to find out, she had the thing turned backwards. She was looking at the back of the phone. So I mean, that's how behind the times some of us are. But you were mentioning the things. And Keely, I like what she said. She said it's adapting to change where it doesn't stress you out. Exactly. And the only way to avoid the stress is to be inwardly ready for the change.
Be open to it.
Ready, being open to making adjustments. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. And so that's something that I've embraced. Like I said, a lot of people, like the places I'm getting ready to go, I have to minister at one church. They want me for 4 nights. Now I think they have been open because I've been ministering for them since the pandemic, almost every year. They were having for a couple of nights and then later on again that year. And so, but again, in this new state of being. Thank you, Holy Ghost. Um, I'm enjoying it. I've seen some people they're like Kelly said, they are so stressed, and it's because they're not willing to be open to realize,
Mhm.
okay, there is nothing you can really stop. They're wanting to go back to yesterday. They want so bad because they're remembering again the excitement, the
Mhm.
energy back then, and so forth. And now they're trying to recapture it again. So, like I encourage people, I say one of the things you have to learn in this season that I know that is I'm being pushed through is becoming more adventurous. And so when you're adventurous, you don't know what's going to happen, but you're willing to take what and I use for example, y'all remember the commercial, take the Nestle plunge. You
Yes.
just jump right into it, just jump
Mhm.
right into it. And
Mhm.
so that's where a lot of people are, especially with the job market now. Things are totally
Yes.
different, totally
Very
different.
different. They're very
And
different.
so a lot of people don't have no clue, no idea what to do. And so that's
Mhm.
why when I mentioned the first stage after the reset is to stop. And now you have to reevaluate the second thing, which means you're going to have to rethink some things
Yeah.
and see again, going back to what you mentioned about the divine intervention, we have to learn how to think for ourselves. See, we so used to having the spirit of God or someone to do something for us all the time because when it don't work out the way that it was expected, now we have someone to blame.
Yes.
So
Yes.
now
Yes.
you're in a situation where you're waiting on God to do something. And he's saying, no, I'm not going to do anything. You're at a stage in your life where you can now take that step. You can now do for yourself. It's just like parenting. We watch that child for a certain time. We're doing everything for them, but then we know at a certain stage we have to stop it, and now
Mm-hmm.
they have to do it for themselves. And
Yeah.
so I think it's actually an exciting time where you are going to discover you are more creative than you ever thought you were.
Yes. I wanted to ask Keely because it's an interesting statement she's made, realizing that change has been contracted. Can you give us a little insight as to what you're actually saying when you say contracted, Keely? I got an idea, but I want to make sure that I'm following you. Also, I wanted to mention that those of us, we all have different life values. For some people, the sense of belonging is on their list of priorities. Adventure is on their list of priorities. There are security is on their list of priorities. And give an example for the person uh, whose life value is um, social contact, for instance, and wanting to belong. They will take $1,000 that they've gotten and use it to have a party. The person who's adventurous would take that same $1,000 and use it to take a trip. The person who has security as their priority will take that $1,000 and save it or invest it. So it's difference in how people's life values are as to how they will navigate through these changing times.
Mhm.
For a person who has security at their top of the list, these challenges are extra difficult because what they're looking for is security, and there's no certainty, so it's hard to have that security. But for the person who's adventurous, man, they may be having a ball.
Exactly. And it's funny that you use that analogy because I was thinking about that. Again, most people, not everyone, so I don't want to generalize. Most people, if they be still for a moment and think, what like you talk about, what's important, what
What's
do I
important to
value
me?
in life?
Mm-hmm.
What fulfills me? So now everybody is different. We have to realize that everybody's different. But most people, most of the things that we do is all about trying to gain money,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
that's
Trying
true.
to gain money. So now, not trying to be special. Now, I was at that place one time. I was. I was. Matter of fact,
Me too.
I had this happen Sunday. There was three young ladies that came after me. They're one is in college. No, two of them is in college, and one is in high school. And they came to me. So based off of what I taught. on Sunday. And obviously, I was right on it because the response that I got from that message, people have texted me, oh my God, we had an awesome time at church. The message was on point, this and this and that. And I had these 3 young ladies come to me and they began to share their heart. And so now I see where I am being put in a position where people are looking. And it's funny because we started Impromptu out with being spiritual guides.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
And so now I've been placed in this position where I can create a platform with people that needs to learn how to navigate through life situations. All right. And so one of the things that was mentioned in the midst of it was we used to do this many, many years ago. We used to have a workshop concerning vision. I would have what we call these vision conferences. And one of the things that we would do that weekend is have vision boards. All right. And so one of the things that the young lady had mentioned, she mentioned about, yeah, I need to, because I asked her, do you journal, certain things in your life? And so they began to mention, because they're sisters, and they mentioned about the vision board. And so I said, it's funny that you mentioned that. I said, you know what I need to do? I need one Sunday. See, that's why I meant about doing something different on a Sunday morning service, not coming and preaching at the people. I keep encouraging my people. I want them to interact with me. I don't want to just do the preaching thing anymore. I want them to interact. So I would ask questions where they would have to give answers.
Yes.
And so I said, you know what I'm going to do? One Sunday, I'm going to do that with everybody. We're going to all get vision boards, and we're going to sit down and put on the board what we envision concerning our lives.
That's good. That's good. Yes, yes. Now, Keely explained what she meant. She said, realizing the change has been contracted, meaning set in your sacred contract. Yeah, I think that is true, Keely. I think for all of us, this change has been ordained by God. This whole shift in everything has been ordained by God. I really believe that. I really do believe
what is hard to get across to the mind is that we ordain this. I'll go back to I'll go back to a place. I see it 24/7. I can remember when I was a baby looking at my aunt who came upstairs to ask my mama
upstairs in your mother's apartment.
In the apartment where we all lived as family. When long after I was born, I wasn't walking then. I remember. And she came upstairs and I heard the words. I remember the words. Can I have him? Let me take him downstairs
and keep him
and put me in between her and my uncle to stop him from beating her. I remember those exact words when I was like that. I looked at her and I heard her. I don't know how and I can see when I walk to school in rain and sleet and snow, I can look back and see an angel walking beside me. When I found out what angels are, and of course, some angels, light beings, have been with us. I can remember been with us. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. I was 15, maybe 16 when I came out of school. No, not 16. Baby. Not 16. I was 16. Baby, no.
You were 16?
I was 16 when I started driving in school.
Right.
And
most of us graduated at 17 or 18.
Yeah, I was 16 when I was in school. And I was supposed to be coming out at 15, but I got put behind.
Coming out of school?
Yeah, 15? I was getting ready to come out of school in 12th grade because I was in there a year later than the ones that I started school with.
But that would make it later rather than earlier.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to...
It would have been around 17 or 18.
17, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, my point is that I was in the 12th grade and I can look back and see every time I switched classes, there was somebody walking beside me.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out that this being, I deliberately, when I used to walk out in the street, walk every morning, I started going through the rabbit hole. I started talking and practicing talking to my light being angel self. And I would say to my angel, I see you. And all the time I didn't see nothing. This. I said, I can feel you with me. I know you walking with me. And I turn and I look at it, just like that. I see you looking at me. Let's go. And as I begin to do this, when I changed and decided to practice the presence of an angel, it was when I started seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
When I started seeing him, before I could start seeing him, I had to practice seeing him. And I got to the place where I didn't want to talk to him much because I knew how to see him within and talk within. It's one of the most amazing adventures. And now I'm questioning him on this side. And I look at this out of the many thousands of lifetimes in my numbers. I can look over one time when carrying a gun to school and out on the other side of the student lounge shooting the gun, and it would be, I don't know why, just out there just shooting out in the woods, and the students were standing there beside me. I couldn't believe that an angel was standing there to keep the teachers and the principal, and I was standing right next to the shop class where the shop teacher could have come out there and got me, but it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. And yet, what Keely is saying about the sacred script, you have to be willing. I don't know what it is. It's so much God in our life as our life that is unbelievable when you see it. You mean to say you've been here all the time and I'm just not acting like I see you, and that ain't good or that ain't close enough?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a car riding 100 miles an hour coming from Greensburg to Winston-Salem or from Raleigh, Durham to Winston-Salem State College or whatever it was, the college we were going to. I know the name of it anyway. For all 6 or 7 of in a car riding over 130 miles an hour, and the highway would get so thin when you're going so fast, it looked like a ribbon strip.
Mm-hmm.
And no tire blew out, nothing, just went just flying like crazy. And I can look back now, I can see God. Now, there are some people that was in accidents, like your mom. I also see where in certain accidents that I've seen that some people, that's the moment of departure.
Mm-hmm.
That's sad to say it like that, but
Yeah, that's true though.
Very true.
Person, when she go out to the store or go out to walk, I got to relax a little bit because that could be the moment. I don't want to talk like this, but
that's where your mind goes. That's where your mind goes.
But there's never a time that we have ever been in this life. I don't care how many times we say, I met God at a certain time, I let Jesus in my life. No, you did not let him in your life. He ain't never been gone.
Exactly.
He ain't never been went nowhere. He ain't been went nowhere. And yet it seemed like that. And
I remember when we first got our first dog, Was it Bernie?
Bernie.
No, Coco
Bernie.
was the one that we had trained them.
Yeah, but
We had the
Bernie.
guy to come in and train us
Mhm.
because Coco was an alpha dog.
Yeah,
I remember Coco.
Yeah, Coco
Yeah.
was he was an alpha dog. He's like, because when we got him, he was the only puppy running around and leading all of the others.
Mhm.
So he was the fattest one because he had been getting most of the food.
Yeah.
So he was an alpha dog. We had to have a trainer come in and help us. He was such an alpha that he would challenge him.
Oh yeah.
He would challenge him.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
could
yeah.
not, certain things he didn't want him to do or me to do. He would literally challenge you.
Mhm.
So the trainer taught us how to bring him into submission. And that was to take him and throw him on his back and hold him down
Between
on
his
his
front
chest.
Until
And
his
he
tail
would
dropped.
he would wrestle, boy. He'd wrestle and he
Ooh-wee.
until
Until his tail dropped.
and you'd have to hold him there until he go.
And some people think that's cruel.
And when he did it, that was surrender. Some of us are just like that dog.
Mm-hmm.
And life, God is using life
Both
to hold
legs,
us down on our back until we go
both front
and
legs had to be.
surrender.
Both front legs had to be
Exactly.
between our hands and hold him.
Yeah.
And he would scratch
Yeah.
and dig.
And with that alpha dog, we could never drop our guard and allow him to be the one in lead.
Now this thing we got now is too spoiled.
I love what Mom said because I talked about that life being a tool to oftentimes. And when I say break us, I'm not talking about destroying our identity. But like, for example, when I was in the military, there were certain things that they had to do to us. Now, of course, I come from a military family, a background of uncles and stuff being in the military and being in ROTC in high school. I knew what I was going to be facing when I went into the service and especially into boot camp. So a lot of the things that they were doing, quote unquote, they would make the statement, we're either going to break you or make you, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what they would make us drop and do the push-ups and do all kind of crazy things and stuff and so forth, causing us to come to that place, like you said, of submission or surrender. And so that's what a lot of people don't understand with different life events and situations. Like one moment, like Dad said, in an accident, that may be the time of somebody's departure. But for someone who went through an accident or an incident like that and their life was preserved, they need to become very aware of the event or that occurrence, because again, it could be something that happened to redirect us in our life.
Yes.
And a lot of people not understand it. That's why I was mentioning earlier concerning, like with me, money is not my focus. It just isn't. I'm learning how to enjoy life, and money is not necessary. It's not.
Send me $1,000 then. Go ahead.
It's not necessary for my ultimate happiness or for me to be fulfilled. And so I shared in the service on Sunday, there are certain things about me that I was very passionate about and I love to do, but I stopped doing it because of the pressure of the religious community that I was connected to, that if I would do the things that I love to do and passionate about, I would be judged about or criticized. And I'm not talking about something doing weight. Like, for example, I'm really into the fitness thing. I love it. It's my thing. I love to do it. I'm in the zone when I'm doing it and stuff. And so I backed away from it because of, again, the religious concept. We need to exercise the godliness because, body exercise only profited a little and so forth and so on. And a lot of people wonder why, at your age, why you keep doing that. It has nothing to do with what other people perceive. It's what I love and I'm passionate about. So like I was sharing with the young ladies, I told them, I said, look, I need you to jot down something that you are passionate about that really has nothing to do with the accumulation of money.
Yeah.
All right. What is it that you could get up and do and enjoy every single day in your life, and money is not the focus? You see what I'm saying? And so a lot of people need to understand that with life situations, I really believe that even in the pandemic, it was I would say the Spirit of God was trying to get our attention, let us know that this rat race we've been in, it's not it.
True. Now, like Keely, I wanted to mention what she's saying because it's very crucial what she's saying. And I have to say this, that when you're feeling good and everything's kind of going okay, there's no real chaos or calamity or whatever going on in your life, you tend to be intoxicated with trying to have a good life. When you're in a situation such as Keely, who has a husband who is now facing, who has been through this, but is now about to face it again, a health crisis.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that kind of environment, when a health crisis arises, it tends to sober you.
Mm-hmm.
Where you may have been intoxicated before, when something like this hits, you sober up and you begin to realize what is most important. So
Yeah.
even if we do a vision board, when something like this comes up, that takes a back seat.
Exactly.
So I like what she said. She said a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about God's presence in us, and she had an epiphany and then she said she felt the peace of God come over her, and she now understands that God took over.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to mention this simply because I've been saying to him just lately, and I don't, I shared that I was very, very sober through the holidays, very sober. I put up my Christmas decorations, all of this stuff, but none of it really meant a whole lot to me. I
Mm-hmm.
was so sober that I didn't get caught up in festivities. I didn't get caught up in lights and all of these different things that we get caught up in. So the sobriety, I'm beginning to understand it. Now I'm experiencing, as Keely said, there are moments of such a sense of well-being. And I've been telling him about it. I've been having these moments of absolute sense of well-being where all of a sudden nothing's changed, but all of a sudden I just feel like everything is okay. And I think that's what she's coming into. It's when, and she said she understood that God took over. I'm understanding that at some point in our lives, we wake up enough to who and what is here in these forms, that a, a, a peace that goes past thinking,
Mm-hmm.
goes past worrying, goes past trying to figure out, comes into fruition. We begin to experience this awesome okayness. Is all I can say it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a feeling like nothing's wrong and nothing's ever wrong.
Exactly.
I'm going to show you something here that I found out that we have never been in. It seemed like his first. We have never been in fourth, third, second person. I'm going to show you something here that I've discovered, and I get down to the end of it. I'll explain it. It was a time 4,000 years ago that I said this. I said this. You said this.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that in myself that my disciples was murmuring against what I'm getting ready to say and what I said. And then I asked them during this time, were they offended because of what I said? And I said to them then, what and if I shall say to you that I am the Son of Man, and that I will ascend up before all of you, and I was before any of us. And I said to them during this time, I said, it is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profit nothing. And the words that I speak unto, and I spoke unto them then, and I speak unto you, they that are spirit, Dave, these words that I'm saying now and then is the same, it's still spirit. But I knew that some of them that I said this to would not believe me. For I knew from the very beginning who they were that would believe or believe not what I just said and what I said then, and that there was going to be somebody during that time was going to betray me. Now, this is what happened to me, and this is what happened to you. But I learned how to read the scriptures, not like Jesus said it, but I said this. You said this in first person. Try it. Go back in there and look at it again and read this thing like, okay, read this like you said it then, and that you over 4,000 years old saying it again.
Mm-hmm.
This thing, if you go through this book and any book in first person and read it like you the one who wrote it, you were inside of the ghostwriter and the author and the finisher saying everything that they were writing and saying on paper in first person. Now, somewhere I had a problem with it because the first thing the mind and the ego said, I told my cousin, I said, when Jesus was on the cross, I said, we all were inside him literally. He said, no, you wasn't literally there. I said, yes, I was. He said, no, you couldn't have been out there. You couldn't have been back there then and up here now. I said, I was. But his mind and his left brain reasoning could not see this in first person.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw this thing, the awesome awakening made me to know then and now that I am the same Christ now that I was 2,000 years ago. But in order to do this, I have to do what it said and what I put in the scriptures. I put in the scriptures. You put in the scripture. I'm not talking about your mama's boy, your mama's baby, your mama's, your daddy. That's why I ask people now when I want to find out a lady's age. You heard me say it. How long have you been your mother's daughter? Oh, my wife, that's a quick, sneaky way to find out what age a person is. Now, the wittiness of this is that when you start talking like this, there's a spark of the pilot light of essence is going to dawn on you. You mean to tell me I'm acting like I was him or inside of him 2,000, 4,000 years ago? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that'll bring you home to realize that God does not take over. He's never been over to be took.
Mm-hmm.
he haven't. This has never been somebody that was. You know, I always say God is not someone somewhere else at another time, another place.
Mm-hmm.
He is us, and we are one. Now, this is the Samson talk. Samson, a Nazarite.
Mm-hmm.
This is Samson saying that prayer that I prayed. Oh, Lord God, remember me. I pray you and strengthen me. I pray that you will strengthen me this once, that I might take revenge against the Philistines. God does not have any enemies. God is in the warfare. If there is ever one to be a war, watch this. You're getting ready to see God in a way, in a place that you in the mind have always omitted him from. The tears that you are crying is now his tears.
Mm-hmm.
The clothes that you're wearing is now his size, and his feet are the size shoe that you wear. You'll see this as you go into it. It is the most awesome awareness that you could experience. Now, it'll bring you to the place, but there's not very much to talk about. It'll bring you to a place where God does make plans to speak and not speak at certain places.
Mm-hmm.
There is a place where God does have an accident, and is your mama going to get a new car, and is your mother who has to learn how to drive a different car called a Nissan. God is, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna stop here, but
Sorry about that, guys.
you scared me. I didn't know you was coming back.
Baby girl's having an issue, so I had to take her out.
Is she okay?
She's okay. Yeah, she's okay.
I look at her baby girl and I say to her in her eyes, I said, I see you.
Mhm.
I see you. Now she'll look, but I've gotten while she's laying on the bed, I kind of put myself down on the level to see what the bed looked like from her perspective.
Mhm.
And it looks
It's
strange.
totally different. Yeah,
It
totally
looks
different.
strange down
Totally
there.
different.
And she stands up on her hind legs and I put up on my shoulder and look at her. She don't look at it. I want to see what she see.
Exactly.
The way she see it.
As she sees.
Now,
yes.
God is seeing everything the way you see
as
it.
we see it. Yes.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I think that's crazy.
That's good.
That's crazy.
Good, but it means
That's marvelous.
it means that we can trust that Spirit has our best interest at heart because it knows, and that's what he said. We have a high priest that is touched with the feeling of our infirmities. It's how we feel about life, how we feel about what we're going through. He's touched with that, and I'm so grateful for that.
Let me tell you this mystery. I studied years ago about the different kinds of anointings. There were 7 kinds. When you go to the book of Isaiah, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for He has anointed me to this, and then
Go ahead. Nothing's changed.
to preach to accept. But you go back and look at the seven. Then it talks about the mysteries. Now 7 operations.
Mm-hmm.
One of the operations I looked at was called the kingly anointing.
Yes.
I was sitting
The
there.
kingly versus the priestly.
Yeah.
Now,
Priestly.
it's funny that y'all said that because that's something I heard concerning is coming into 2024, and I heard that back in October. That for some reason we're going to see the manifestation of the priestly office in 2024. I heard that. I really didn't have no idea what that really meant, and I'm familiar with the kingly anointing and the priestly anointing, but I heard that it's going to be, well, Paul said it, us being the priesthood. All right, a royal priesthood. I think that's going to become more obvious. We're going to become more aware of that this year than ever before.
I think, and I agree with you. I think that we're experiencing, the two of us are experiencing the priestly anointing, more the priestly mode, I should say. And it goes back to the lady that's been working in our yard. You know, we shared that. She just decided she wanted to do that. And she came up just this week and planted tulips out in my front yard. She brought them and planted them. And so that's still happening. So it's like, and then there's other areas where people have just all of a sudden started to put money in our hands and give us money. And so
how you connected that, because that was in my head just now based on
yes, we've always had people be generous to us. That's been something that we've experienced all our lives, but it's like just since Christmas, it's like it's stepped up in that sense. Not so much that we're getting more money, but it's like there's more people wanting to give, and so that priestly anointing is that. And I don't want to call it an anointing, but it is a priestly mode where prayers are being answered without you having to pray them.
Exactly. That's good. That's good.
Now, here's what the king anointing showed me. I saw this preacher had a line of people in front of him. He went down the line, and some of them they blow on him, and some of them lay their hands and push and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know. I wasn't expecting the translation.
And that's auto suggestion, by the way.
And he said to one of the ladies, "If she didn't go down under the power like the rest of them did.
Was it slain
She
in the
resisted it, slain in spirit. She resisted it. And he pushed it, and she still didn't go down. And I heard years ago, my assistant pastor told me about a preacher who slapped somebody on the head. And the man backed up and said, if you ever hit me like that again, don't play that with me. So anyway, I saw this preacher on television, and the woman didn't go down. He said, if you didn't want me to pray for you and you wasn't ready to receive, what you come up here for?
Wow.
That's what he said.
Wow.
I wanted to slap him through the television with a baseball bat.
Oh my God.
Now, and from that, the kingly anointing was translated to me. Here's what he said the kingly anointing is. When a king stands in the vesture of his garment, glory be to God. He said the presence of the king would automatically buckle your knees, and the spirit had translated to me like a person fainting. I was going to R.J. Reynolds
at the Splendor.
That's right, presence.
Yes.
Didn't say a word, but just presence. I was going to R.J. Reynolds medical department after injuring my finger, and I had to cross the street, a stoplight in Reynolds building, to go into the medical department. And I kept feeling a little woozy, but when I got in there, the nurse was checking my blood pressure, and while I'm sitting there, all of a sudden I just melted right down in the seat.
Your blood pressure, or was she giving you a shot?
No, she wasn't giving no shot, just checking my blood pressure. And I just went, and she caught me. I just passed out just like that. I wasn't expecting it. That's the type of kingly anointing. It's like these people, I've seen people in church, they walk around with this smelling salts, whatever it is, they put on their nose when somebody and bring them back.
But it's bowing it's every knee shall bow, not because they are afraid.
That's right.
But because of the splendor of the king.
I saw the king, and I was watching the event when a person was in front of the king and they dropped to the floor. Yeah. Didn't have to lay hands or push him. Yeah. I saw this a lot in Catherine Kuhlman's.
So this thing of blowing and pushing.
No, I don't want you blowing your old stinking cotton breath, snake mouth breath on me.
Anyway, guys, we've been here more than we should have, longer than we should have. Pastor Norman, thank you so much for having a conversation with us today.
Definitely.
I enjoyed it. As always, I have always enjoyed it with you.
There's Oliver J.
And Oliver's been here. Thank you, Oliver, for tuning in. And Keely. Thank you, Keely.
Dr. Keely. Dr. Keely.
Sharon and Diane.
Dr. Diane.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
Dr. Sharon.
Yeah.
Who else is on there? We didn't get to.
I don't know. Maybe y'all are just not saying anything.
Okay. So, well, that's all right. Keep your mouth shut then.
We'll be back again for our usual time on Sunday at 10. Pastor Norman, we'll see him. You have your usual online service on Wednesdays.
We'll talk some more of these mysteries.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sunday, he's doing his in-person services now, so that's a good thing. We're glad about that. And Dad and I were talking about the fact that some of these places that are inviting him to go can Zoom us in instead of us traveling. So they can Zoom us in if they have the means to set that up in their congregations for a screen. They can always Zoom us in. But that's another thing that we've been talking about as well. So we're really looking forward to this year. I'm not sure what, and I want to say this too. We used to call it watch night service. It's now crossover service. I've heard crossover service. So that's
a whole lot of crossing over there.
But I have to admit that I am not as caught up with New Year's as I used to be. Because that is only regarding space and time, and we are moving in our enlightenment process and the evolution. We're moving out of that space and time mentality a lot. So it's not so important about what year this is because it's only on our calendar that it exists.
Yeah. I want to comment on that because I even wanted to say something earlier when you made a statement concerning it. That was a discussion I was having with my family members, my mom, my wife, even with my kids, that things just don't seem the same,
They're
even
not the same.
with the holidays. And so, like you said, they're not the same. And so, one of the things that I noticed, observing myself, it has been traditional, especially when the smart device came into being, that every holiday we'll reach out to everybody and we'll send our little post or flyer, whatever, Merry
Yes.
Christmas, so forth and so on. And then even the same thing with New Year. I found myself in a challenge with that this year. Like you said, I've become so sober with whatever. I mean, look, it's Christmas. We'll do whatever we want to, whatever we do. Wasn't all the bell and whistles that we are used to or whatever. I mean, I was just so laid back till it was like, this and what's so different? And I was just out of course, literally. And so there would be people that would text me saying Merry Christmas or whatever. And so of course, me being on the grill and me doing other things, I thought about that day. I'm trying to respond to all these people that sit in, and then I'm trying to respond to people I know as well. And then I said, why am I submitting myself to this right now? Really, I'll be here all day trying to wish everybody a Merry Christmas because, again, I know a lot of people.
Sure.
All right. And then even with the New Year. And so I thought about some people, how they will feel so offended that someone that they expected, like myself, why Apostle ain't wish me a Happy New Year? Why Apostle ain't wish me Merry Christmas, whatever? And so again, that's what we have to understand, that all of this have changed. It doesn't mean that we don't love one another. We're just not allowing ourselves to get caught up into the fantasy of these holidays and these certain celebrations and so forth. We're not caught up in the fantasy of it. Again, like I shared with them, the main thing that we need to understand, that is an attitude or spirit we should have 365 days out of the year, not just a special time. We should
so we have come into this understanding, you and myself and my husband and some others have come into the understanding that what is most important is the relationships that we have.
Exactly.
More than anything else, that is the most important. Oliver, thank you so much. And we got to get off of here because you've got a dental appointment.
Yeah, I got to go see my teeth doctor.
Yeah, your teeth doctor. Yeah. But anyway, Oliver, thank you so much. He says, great to see that you guys are often running, adding value and building goodwill in the community section. I love how Oliver writes.
I will come to see you if you have 4 or 5 or 6 people down to your house, Oliver, where I can talk to them about this crazy stuff, and I get a chance to meet y'all in that gathering. I'll come to your house, or either way is all right with me. Thank you. See you later.
He's always submitting his
request.
Mm-hmm.
And Pastor Norman, you tell your wife that I'm waiting for that mail.
Listen, we're going off air before you keep
I'm waiting for some mail in the mailbox.
More and more of your requests.
Yeah, I'm requesting.
And besides, baby girl had diarrhea this morning, and she's passing gas in this little bitty room. And we got to get out of here.
Yeah, we do. We
got to get out of here. And he's got to.
But in the meantime, we'll see you on the turnaround.
Love you guys so
Sister
much.
Sharon, we thank everybody. Sweetheart, a lot at this time of the year. We think about you.
Start up again.
I know, but I just goodbye.
See you.